Short answer type questions. What does government do to promote social justice among Dalits and Adivasis? Answer. Both state and central governments create specific schemes for implementation in tribal areas or in areas that have a high Dalit population. For instance, the government provides for free or subsidized hostels for students of Dalit and Adivasi communities so that they can avail of education facilities that are not being available in their localities. Also, government's reservation policy is a very significant way to promote social justice among Dalits and Adivasis. Under this policy, seats are reserved in education and government's employment for them. Question: how does government's reservation policy work? Answer: government across the country have their own list of scheduled castes and scheduled tribes and backward and most backward castes. The central government too has its list. Students applying to educational institutions and those applying for posts in government are expected to furnish proof of their caste and tribe certificates. If a particular Dalit caste or a certain tribe is on the government list, then a candidate from that caste or tribe can avail of the benefit of reservation. Question: how did Sant Kabir look at the division in society in India? Answer: Kabir strongly criticized caste system and in his poetry. He attacked those who attempted to define individuals on the basis of their religious and caste identities. In his view, every person had the ability to reach the highest level of spiritual salvation and deep knowledge within themselves through their own experience. His poetry brings out the powerful idea of the equality of all human beings and their labor. He writes about valuing the work of the ordinary potter, the weaver, and the woman carrying the water pot, or the labor that in his poetry becomes the basis of understanding of entire universe. Question: what is the scheduled tribe and other traditional forest dwellers recognition of forest rights act about? This act was passed in 2006. The introduction to the final act states that this act is meant to undo the historical injustice meted out to forest dwelling populations in not recognizing their rights to land and resources. This act recognizes their right to homestead, cultivable and grazing land, and non timber forest produce. The Act also mentions that the rights of forest dwellers include conservation of forest and biodiversity. Question: why did the government pass the Scheduled Caste and Scheduled Tribes Act 1989? Answer: untouchability was being practiced in the society for a long time, but it had acquired violent character in the late 1970s and 1980s. During this period, in parts of southern India, several strong Dalits came into being and asserted their rights. They insisted on being treated equally. Like Ratnam, a Dalit boy in this chapter, they refused to perform the age old rituals. Also, they refused to follow practices which were based on humiliation and exploitation of Dalits. The result was that the upper and powerful caste reacted violently against them. In order to draw the attention of the government to the fact that untouchability was still followed and practiced, Dalits wanted new laws that would list the atrocities committed against them and provide stringent and rigorous punishment who practiced untouchability. Finally, the government passed the Scheduled Caste and the Scheduled Tribes Act 1989 in response to the demands of SCs and STs to protect them from inhuman treatment, horrific situation and abuses. Question: what crimes have been dealt with by the Scheduled Caste and Scheduled Tribes Prevention of Atrocities Act? Answer. This act contains a very long list of crimes. The act does not only describe terrible crimes but also lets people know what dreadful deeds human beings are capable of. The act distinguishes several levels of crimes. It lists modes of humiliation that are both physically horrific and morally reprehensible, and seeks to punish those who force a member of SC or ST caste to drink or eat any inedible or obnoxious substance, forcibly removes clothes from the person of a member of a SC or ST, or parades him or her naked or with painted face or body, or commits any similar act which is derogatory to human dignity. It enlists actions that dispossess Dalits and Adivasis of their meager resources, or which force them into performing slave labor. Thus, the Act sets out to punish anyone who wrongfully occupies or cultivates any land owned by or allowed to a member of SC or ST, or gets the land allotted to him transferred. The Act recognizes that crimes against Dalit and tribal women are of a specific kind, therefore seeks to penalize anyone who assaults or uses force on any women belonging to SC or ST with intent to dishonor her. Question. What is manual scavenging? Describe efforts made by the government to eradicate manual scavenging. Answer. Manual scavenging is the disgraceful practice of one human being removing human and animal waste or excreta using brooms, tin plates, and baskets from dry latrines and carrying it on their head to disposal grounds some distance away. A manual scavenger is a person who does the work of removing this filth. The Dalit women and young girls are mostly engaged in removing filth. The government, in association with NGOs, is determined to eradicate manual scavenging. Regarding this, the Employment of Manual Scavengers and Construction of Dry Latrines Prohibition Act was passed in 1993. The government, in association with some NGOs, is determined to eradicate manual scavenging. Regarding this, the Employment of Manual Scavengers and Construction of Dry Latrines Prohibition Act was passed in 1993. The Act punishes the employment of scavengers of the construction of dry non-flush type of latrines with imprisonment for up to 1 year and or a fine. The government has the responsibility of rehabilitation. The scavengers got accommodated in the local municipal corporation as Safai Karmacharis. The government has also assisted the scavengers and their dependents to opt for alternative trade by providing subsidy, bank loan, and training for such trades.